and I was there for 20 months. Went through the program 10 months. God really just changed my life. He really showed me that, life was more than just about being sober or staying away from drugs and alcohol. He had much more for me than that. He had a hope and a future for my life, and I truly began to believe that for myself. I could hear that from other people, and that sounded great, and I tried doing all the things I was supposed to do on my own when I was at home, but it never worked. And when God really got a hold of me and I really realized it wasn't about me, it was about Him, everything, my perspective changed. And God did that through Dunklin. And I don't think that could have happened anywhere else. Dunklin is an amazing place. And through that process, it's amazing to see how God's worked. Even at the end of my time at Dunklin, I graduated the program. I stayed for servant leadership training. And I can remember coming home, flying home for Christmas or some break, I can't remember, and going to the county jail in Holmes County and talking to one of my good friends, Jared Jenkins, who was in a lot of trouble, and loaded him up on a plane, took him back to Okeechobee with me, and it was so funny because the judge released him into my care, and I was just kind of like, okay, come on, Jared, I hope we don't wind up in Miami, but we're going to try this, And so, but to see what God's done over the past 10 years from where I was to where I am now, it's only God. I mean, all I did was give up. I just gave up, and God did the rest. It's nothing that I've done, and He's just so good. And to see how He's just continued to use steps. I mean, I see Ryan George here, Jared, the guy that I took to Dunklin, has ministered to so many people, and you just see the steps of God along the way and how He's touched people's lives. And, Dunklin is where it all started. God used Dunklin, and I know that God can use that type of place here too. We've sent so many people down there. God's kind of fast-forwarded my life since then. I've been in the ministry for 8 years. I graduated from BCF and graduated from seminary, and have a beautiful, godly wife and 2 beautiful children. And it's just, God's allowed me to have a ministry, ministering to 150 students on a weekly basis. And it's just, God's just good. And I don't deserve any of it, but it's people like Shelley Chandler and people like that God puts in your life and allows you to direct you to places like Dunklin where He can really change you if you allow Him to. And so whatever I can do to help to make this a reality in this area, I'm willing to do it. And whatever God has in store for this place and whatever God's calling me to help in this, I'm here to do it. So whatever it takes, I just say we move forward and get it done. So thank you.
My name is Dwight Rich. I'm not really good at speaking with people. Got up this morning and talked about it with my wife, and she said, just don't worry about it. Just when we said our prayer, which is a miracle upon itself, that's how I get up and start my day today. Like I said, my name's Dwight. I grew up in Bonifay, Florida. Been a local fella, and grew up normal. Good parents. Never was around drugs, alcohol. Went to church growing up. I guess about the time that I turned 16 and got my driver's license, it went downhill from there. I got mixed up with a crowd that was drinking, and from there it progressed. I guess the normal chain of progression is the drinking, then the alcohol, and then I was introduced to cocaine, and the cocaine went on to crack cocaine, which went downhill very fast. That was probably while I was in college at Chipola in college, and I flunked out of school because of that. I got married, which don't know why I did that because I wasn't a very good man at the time. Went to work offshore because I couldn't maintain a job at home. I could go out there and stay clean, but when I come home, I was not a good person. This progressed for years. I was in and out of secular programs, and none of them would help me. There was something that was still missing in my life. I could stay clean for months, even years at a time, but I would always go back to drugs. The to hunt that thing that was missing in my life. Eventually, back in 2006, it had really got bad. I had become the person that could make money, have a pocket full of money, and still spend it all on drugs and need more. I wasn't a person that you'd want in your house at night. I might steal out of your own pocketbook. I was not a good person. This got so bad that finally one night I was in Caryville, and the police were over there, and I proceeded to run from the law with drugs on me. Well, this led to my arrest, and got to go to Washington County Jail. And you would think that event like that would change a person in itself. Well, it did. Like all the times before, I straightened up and said, I'm going to fly right. Well, this was something I couldn't shake. This was a mess that I'd finally got into that I couldn't get out of. These were real consequences. So even through all that, I was fortunate enough to be given probation, which has never been on it before, but I said I can do that. And I eventually messed that up after about a year and violated. Failed a drug test. Well, I got back into Washington County Jail, and by then I was hunting a way to get out of this trouble I'd gotten myself into. I was fortunate enough to have Jared Jenkins come visit me and share about Dunklin. Well, I'd heard about Dunklin before years ago. I remember when Matt Curry went to Dunklin, and I said to myself, I'm glad I'm not that bad off. And but through Jared, Jeep, Shelley, when my court date finally came, I believe they had enough of me. The offer on the table was 5 years in prison. And I turned that offer down, and I pled straight up to Judge Register. And Judge Register was very kind to me. He allowed me to go to Dunklin. I forgot to mention, while I was in jail, I got served my divorce papers. And that day in court, my wife was with me, and she actually spoke on my behalf. And I guess she saw something good in me. And the judge did too. And I was allowed to go to Dunklin. And that's been about 3.5 years ago. And while I was at Dunklin, I was allowed to work through some issues that I'd never worked through in my life. I learned how to communicate with God and to listen to God. I learned how to interact with good people, how to set up accountability. Today, my life is simple. It can be hectic. It's normal. I'm on an even playing field with everybody. But when I do have bad days, I turn to good fellow Christian men instead of drugs. And I'm just glad I was here to be able to share with you. I'm glad that I was offered the opportunity to be part of this, and hopefully this vision of bringing something up here to the Panhandle can come to. Thank you.